Welcome to the Trademark Electronic Application Filing System for the United States Patent and Trademark Office. For your convenience, the Office has created 3 versions of the Electronic Initial Application Form: TEAS Plus, TEAS Reduced Fee, or TEAS RF for short, and TEAS Regular. All 3 forms provide a pathway to seek registration, but the USPTO designed the TEAS Plus and TEAS RF applications to provide less expensive and more streamlined paths. TEAS Plus is the least expensive and most streamlined application. In exchange for filing a complete initial application and agreeing to conduct correspondence electronically, you receive a heavily reduced filing fee. With TEAS RF, you do not have to file a complete initial application, but you must agree to conduct correspondence electronically. In exchange, you receive a moderately reduced filing fee. If you can't file a complete initial application and don't want to conduct correspondence electronically, you can file a TEAS Regular application for the standard filing fee. For more information about the similarities and differences between the application types, check out the Reduced Fee FAQs page available on uspto.gov. To file a complete application under TEAS Plus, simply make sure that you complete all fields marked with a red asterisk. These fields are mandatory. If you realize you cannot make an entry at this time, you can start over using either the TEAS RF or the TEAS Regular form. The only exception to the red asterisk rule is when the field is not relevant to the facts of your case. For example, if your mark is in English, you are not required to submit a translation or transliteration, as no foreign words or characters appear in your mark. In addition to filing a complete application, you must select your listing of goods and services from the USPTO's Acceptable Identification of Goods and Services Manual, also known as the ID Manual. If acceptable wording does not appear in the ID Manual, you may email tmidsuggest@uspto.gov to suggest an identification be added to the ID Manual. Be aware, however, you cannot file your TEAS Plus application until you receive a response to that email indicating your suggested identification is acceptable and the ID Manual is updated to add the new listing. This process can take between 1 and 2 weeks. Otherwise, your only option is to use either TEAS RF or TEAS Regular. When filing under TEAS Plus, you must also pay all filing fees at the time of filing, agree to file certain documents electronically, and receive all communications concerning the application via email. If you fail to file a complete TEAS Plus application, the office will remove your TEAS Plus status and treat your application as a TEAS Regular application. You will be required to pay an additional application processing fee per international class. The same is true if you fail to comply with the requirements for a TEAS RF application. Your application will be converted to a TEAS Regular application, and you will be required to pay the additional application processing fee. It is your choice whether to file under TEAS Plus, TEAS RF, or TEAS Regular, but be aware that a TEAS Plus application lowers your filing fee and increases the likelihood that your application will move more quickly toward publication and registration. To make your choice, simply click the link for your preferred form and begin the application. Now you are ready to both ensure that your fee information is correct and sign the required declaration. First, make sure that the filing fee is correct, based on your type of application and the number of international classes of goods and services included in your application. In this example, the applicant has identified T-shirts as his goods and services, which are listed in one international class, Class 25. He is filing a TEAS Plus application, which qualifies him for the lower filing fee of $225 per international class. As such, his filing fee is correct. Your fee may vary based upon the number of international classes in your application and whether you are filing under TEAS Regular, TEAS Reduced Fee, or TEAS Plus. Second, select your method of providing the declaration signature. The easiest and most common method of signing the application is to sign directly. Simply fill in the provided fields with the requested information. For the electronic signature, be sure that the signature wording is preceded and followed by forward slashes. In this example, the applicant typed /John L. Doe and then filled in the date, January 1st, 2015, his name, John L. Doe, his title or position, in this case, owner, and his phone number, 302-555-1212. If your application requires multiple signatories, for example, if you are filing as joint applicants, click the Add Signatory button and repeat the signature process. When you are finished, click the Validate button to continue to the next page. Now you are ready to ensure that your correspondence information is correct. Unless an attorney is filing the application on your behalf, the information on this page will be the same as the applicant information you previously entered. If a different address should be used for correspondence, simply delete the current information and enter the new information. Note that any entry marked with a red asterisk must be completed. Also note that, if desired, you may enter additional email addresses to receive duplicate, courtesy copies of electronic USPTO correspondence. If an attorney is filing the form on your behalf, the attorney should ensure the attorney checkbox is checked and then fill in the attorney's correspondence information. Remember, if your permanent legal residence or principal place of business is outside the United States, you must have a private U.S. licensed attorney represent you before the office. When you are sure that your correspondence information is correct, click Continue to move on to the next section of the form. Now you are ready to identify the filing basis for the goods and services in your application. For more information about what a filing basis is and the importance of selecting the proper one, be sure to click the link to watch the instructional Trademark Information Network video. In addition, click on the provided hyperlinks for complete written instructions on how to properly assign a filing basis. For example, if you are filing an application that has one basis for all goods and services, click the link and follow the provided instructions. The two most common filing bases are Section 1A, Use in Commerce, and Section 1B, Intent to Use. Section 1A is for when you are already using your mark in interstate commerce. Section 1B is for when you are not yet using the mark in interstate commerce, but you have a bona fide intent to do so within the next 3 to 4 years. To complete a Section 1A basis, upload a JPEG or PDF image of a specimen of use that shows how you are using the mark in commerce, provide a brief description of the specimen, and provide both the date of first use of the mark anywhere and the date of first use of the mark in commerce. The dates are often the same. Click the Assign Filing Basis button to assign the basis. Check to ensure that the assigned basis is correct for each listed good or service, then click Continue. To complete a Section 1B basis, simply click the checkbox to indicate you understand additional forms and fees will be required, and click the Assign Filing Basis button to assign the basis. Check to ensure that the assigned basis is correct for each listed good or service, then click Continue. Now you are ready to identify the goods and services associated with your mark. This section is extremely important, and your selection of goods and services must be precise and accurate. Do not simply select a listing that is close to your goods and services. For more information about goods and services and the importance of making the right selection, be sure to click the link to watch the instructional Trademark Information Network video. To select your goods and services, you may either use the ID manual or enter your goods and services using the Freeform Text tool. Because use of the Freeform Text option often results in USPTO examining attorneys issuing application rejections, the office recommends using the ID manual option for selecting your goods and services. In fact, if you're going to use the ID manual option, you may wish to consider filing under TEAS Plus to take advantage of a reduced filing fee. To list goods and services using the ID manual, simply click the Add Goods/Services button to search the manual and insert your goods and services. On the next page, type in the goods and services associated with your mark. For example, T-shirts. When you're finished, click Go. Check the boxes for the appropriate entries and click the Insert Checked Entries button. If one of the entries requires more detail, type the necessary wording into the provided box. For example, if the T-shirts are for babies, type babies. Then, click the Insert Checked Entries button again to move on to the filing basis page. If you decide to use the free-form text option, click Add Goods/Services to reveal the free-form text field. For each international class of goods and services, type in your listing using the common commercial name for the goods and services and select the international class of your goods and services. For example, T-shirts, hats, and jackets are all classified in International Class 25. It's a good idea to separate your goods and services with semicolons and use the ID Assistance tool to help you draft an acceptable listing of goods and services. If you are filing for more than one international class, click Add Classes of Goods/Services to add additional classes. Once you have listed all of your goods or services, move to the Filing Basis section to assign a filing basis. Remember, the examination of your application is based on your listing of goods and services, so if you choose the wrong items, your mark may be refused and your application may be abandoned. Inaccuracies may also result in the cancellation of your trademark registration. Now you are ready to identify the goods and services associated with your mark. This section is extremely important, and your selection of goods and services must be precise and accurate. Do not simply select a listing that is close to your goods and services. For more information about goods and services and the importance of making the right selection, be sure to click the link to watch the instructional Trademark Information Network video. To search for your goods and services, simply click the Add Goods/Services button. On the next page, type in the goods and services associated with your mark. For example, T-shirts. When you're finished, click Go. Check the boxes for the appropriate entries and click the Insert Checked Entries button. If one of the entries requires more detail, type the necessary wording into the provided box. For example, if the T-shirts are for babies, type babies. Then, click the Insert Checked Entries button again to move on to the filing basis page. Remember, the examination of your application is based on your selection, so if you choose the wrong items, your mark may be refused and your application may be abandoned. Inaccuracies may also result in the cancellation of your trademark registration. Use the Additional Statements section to enter various statements that may pertain to your mark, such as a disclaimer or a translation. To reveal the full listing of these statements, click the provided box. The list of additional statements will appear below. If you are filing a TEAS Plus application, you will notice that several of the statements are marked by a red asterisk. The asterisk means that you must complete the relevant statement if warranted by the facts in your case. If the statement is not relevant, you may leave it blank. Be aware, however, if you fail to enter a required additional statement, and the assigned examining attorney later determines that the facts in your case did warrant an entry, you will lose your TEAS Plus status. Your application will be transformed to a regular TEAS application, and you will have to pay an additional filing fee per international class. To avoid this, be sure to take your time and click on the title of each additional statement to learn more about the requirement and determine whether it applies to you. Although it may be tempting to select every statement provided, don't do it. Additional statements are not commonly used and are for special circumstances that only exist in certain applications. If you enter a statement that does not apply to your application, you may delay the processing of your application. If in doubt, leave it out. If an additional statement is necessary, the assigned examining attorney will require it later in the process. If the facts in your application do warrant an additional statement, simply type the information into the provided field. If you need to include an additional statement that does not provide a box for typing an entry, simply check the relevant checkbox. Be aware that the Miscellaneous Statement section should be used sparingly, if at all. Only use it if the information you're about to provide is absolutely necessary and no other designated portion of the form exists to enter the information. Once you finish entering any additional statements, click Continue. If you finish reviewing the Additional Statements section and determine that none of the statements apply to your application, uncheck the Additional Statements box and the statements will disappear. Any selections you made in the Additional Statements section will also disappear automatically. If you are finished with this section, click Continue to move on to the next section. Now you are ready to identify the mark you want to register. For information about the different types of mark options, be sure to read all the provided instructions and click on the highlighted links. Your mark might be a standard character mark, a special form mark, or, in very rare cases, a sound mark. Because the majority of marks are either standard character or special form marks, we will focus on those two types. For a standard character mark, simply type your mark in the provided box. Remember, the entry can be in capital letters, lowercase letters, or a combination of both, but do not include any of the TM, SM, trademark registration, or copyright registration symbols. For a special form mark, attach a JPEG version of the mark using the provided buttons. JPEG is the only acceptable file type. And remember, be sure to complete any section designated with a red asterisk. For example, if your mark is in any color besides black, white, or gray, you must claim the colors appearing in the mark. Simply type them into the provided box. If your mark is merely a black and white drawing, however, no color claim is needed. For all special form marks, a mark description is required. Simply type it into the provided box. And if your mark is in color, remember to specify in the mark description where the colors appear in the mark. When you're finished, remember to go back and make sure that all the required fields are properly completed. Before you select Continue and move on to the next section, however, click the Additional Statements box to see if any of the statements are relevant to your application. Now you are ready to fill in the applicant information. Be sure to complete any field designated with a red asterisk. In the Owner of Mark section, type in the business name of the trademark owner. Or, if the trademark is owned by an individual, type in the personal name of the owner, last name first. Remember, the name you type in should indicate the owner of the mark, not necessarily the name of the person filling out the form. If your business operates under an assumed name, be sure to include that information. If the section does not apply to you, leave it blank. For the Entity Type section, select your entity type from those listed. Depending on your entity type, you will need to select your country of citizenship, the state or country in which your business is incorporated or organized, and, if required, include the names and citizenship of any general partners, members, trustees, or executors. If your entity type is not listed, click the Other button and select your organization type from the drop-down menu. Be sure to include all other relevant information. If you and another owner own the mark jointly, but do not have a legally formed arrangement for ownership, you are considered joint applicants. Simply fill out the page for one owner, click the Add Owner button, at the bottom of the page, and fill out the page again for each joint owner. The rest of the page is very straightforward. Simply fill in your street address and city, select your state and country, and fill in your zip code. Remember, however, that the information in your filing is available to the public, so if you would prefer not to have a personal street address in the record, you may wish to consider using a post office box or a business address. The office recommends that you provide additional contact information, a telephone number where you can be reached, and a business website address if you have one. The web address will give the office an additional way to contact you if the need arises, as well as provide background information for the better examination of your application. Also, you can type in your email address and click the box to authorize the USPTO to communicate with you via email. This is suggested for TEAS regular applications and required for TEAS reduced fee and TEAS Plus. Remember, only one email address may be used for correspondence. You must keep this address current in the USPTO's records and be sure to take all necessary steps to ensure that any email coming from us is not treated as spam. When you're done, click Continue and move on to the next page.